What? Okay, this must be addressed before that. Wrong screws! Ah, this is so triggering! Okay, you know what? I just can't look at that section because I'm never going to get to eat. But what the hell? Wrong screw! Wrong screw! No! What is this? Why is this not even? This goes under the speaker. Wi-Fi card goes under speaker, not over speaker! That's wrong! Ah! Action. Hey everybody, how's it going? So today we got an A1278 that's got no USB ports. Now there's a couple of ways that we're going to go about troubleshooting this. The first thing I'm interested in is it both USB ports not working, or is it one USB port not working? Because if it's one USB port not working, that's going to be a different problem, because often there are different USB hubs in some of these older machines for each port. So, for example, some USB port hubs may also include stuff like Bluetooth, or the webcam, or the SD card reader, or the keyboard. So if there are certain groups of items not working, this helps me narrow down what it is. If it's both USB ports not working, it's often not going to be the hub, because there are different USB hubs per port. So if it's both not working, it could be a power issue where the chip in common between the two, which is the power supply, could have failed. You never know. So it's very interesting detective work here, and I'd like to walk you through it. So let's open this up and see what's going on, and see if there's anything obvious going on here, and then try it with a USB to see which ports have failed. Wow, this is old. This has a Sandy Bridge CPU. Sandy Bridge. All right, nothing looks too out of place by the USB section, which is right over here. Let's open up a schematic for this 8202936, this ancient piece of kit right here. So check this out. Let's go over to USB. So see this? External USB-A goes to USB hub 2. External USB-B goes to USB hub 1. So if one port is not working, we could potentially blame a hub. But if both ports are not working, then whatever is in common between them is usually what's wrong, which is either power supply, easy, or PCH, Paul Q. So let's go over to the power circuit so I can show you what I mean when I say what they have in common. Well, if you take a look over here, U4600 has two outputs. It has PP5ES3, a 5-volt power rail in, and then it outputs to each USB over here and over here. Now, usually these filters over here don't actually blow, because this chip, if it detects a short circuit, automatically turns off power to the port, which is really cool. But most of the time when there's a short to ground, it's actually that chip itself, the power IC that has failed. So I'm going to grab a USB drive and see which port it is, one or both of them, that are not working. Holding down the Option key. My autofocus is kind of working funky in my camera today. What the hell, Sony? WTF. Focus. Alright. So that port is not working. Let's try the other one. Neither port appears to be functioning. Now we're going to see if we have 5 volts in either port. Zero volts on USB. 0 volts on USB. So I'm going to unplug power going to the system. It's fine. I'm not booted into an operating system, so I don't have to worry about corrupting any drives. And we're going to see if we get a short to ground. No short. No short. Interesting. Okay. Now we're going to take a look at the power IC itself, which is U4600. Now remember, for this to turn on, DDR reg enable has to be present on pins 4 and 5. So You have input, PP5ES3. Obviously, that rail is present because if it wasn't, the board wouldn't turn on. So PP5ES3, we got that. You have to have output, which we don't have at either filter. So, and technically, it is possible that both filters blew, but those filters never blow, so I'm not worried about that. When I say filters, I mean L4605 and L4615. It's what sits between the USB port and this chip. It's kind of acting as a fuse, and also acting to prevent, if you plug a device that requires a large inrush of current, that it doesn't destroy the chip. So let's see what I get on pins 4 and 5 of this beautiful chip and see if it's being enabled and told to turn on. Also, what's really interesting and funny here is they use a DDR reg enable signal to turn on the USB. That's kind of lazy. I guess anytime you want your RAM to be powered, you also want USB to be powered, because RAM is going to be powered in an S3 state when the machine is sleeping, and USB is also going to be expected to work when the machine is in an S3 state and sleeping. I just kind of find it interesting that they use a RAM power signal for this. Very, very strange. Okay, 3.3 in. So the chip is being told to output power. Let's see what we get on pins 8 or 9. Zero. Wait, 2.8. Okay, that's messed up. It shouldn't be 2.8. So, time to remove that chip and put a new one. It's being told to power on and it's not, and there's no short to ground on output keeping it from powering on. So I'm going to blame the chip. Yeah, there's nothing in that area that I really have to worry about burning on this board. This is something obviously you got to have to experience, be careful with if you're ever going to do repairs with the board and the housing, but this is one where I can and I don't have to really worry about ruining anything. Oh, I'm getting a phone call with my delivery. Shit, that's my food. And this short Bluetooth doesn't have, it's not smart like the Jabra or anything. I can't go answer. Come on, chip, come out before the phone call ends. Come on, I want my food. Hello. Yes, be right there, my friend. Thank you so much. Let me just find my keys. Oh boy, my food is here. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Oh boy, lentils. Mmm. You know, if I work by the ISL at that point, I'll usually take the RAM out at least, because the weight of the RAM will pull the RAM slot a little if you're heating it. But this is far enough away from the RAM slot that I don't have to care. Just barely by enough. And I'll use low airflow. You'll see, this will slip right into place. Oh, that was beautiful. So satisfying. Putting too much solder on the center pad is so satisfying. I love it. Thick center pad. 2 C's. Now I got my micro pencil tip back. I can do this. Damn, this micro pencil tip cuts through ground. That is sweet. Come back, you little solder ball, after you think you're going. That solder ball really doesn't want to get sucked up by the micro pencil, so I'll just remove it from the board. No biggie. Alright, let's see if we got USB. If we have USB, I can eat. If we don't have USB, I cannot eat. I have not earned a meal yet. I should fix at least 3 MacBooks before. What? Okay, this must be addressed before that. Wrong screws! Ah, this is so triggering! Okay, you know what? I just can't look at that section because I'm never going to get to eat. But what the hell? Wrong screw! Wrong screw! No! What is this? Why is this not even? This goes under the speaker. Wi-Fi card goes under speaker, not over speaker! That's wrong! Ah! Ah, no. I'm not going to find screws for that right now. Fuck that. It's midnight. And I didn't do that. You did. Alright. It's wrong! You can't leave it like that. No! Alright. See, what does this do? Show me. Show me a USB, you fuck. Come on. What? No power. Oh, there we go. Okay, now we have one USB port not working. So that port works. Top port works. Bottom port says... What's wrong with bottom port? Do we seriously have 2 issues on USB power? Really? Really now? Indeed, hiss, Copaz. Fucking hiss. Alright. Let's take a look at the board. So it looks like the port closest to the display connector is the one that has a problem. That is going to be J4610. J4610 is external USB-B. That goes to the camera, the IR, and the IR controller. So we can test if this is a hub or something else by trying the webcam. So I'm going to boot up into Orhan's operating system and see if the webcam works. Because if the webcam works, then that means it's not the USB hub, it's something upstream of the hub. You understand? This may be an interesting one to solve because it's going to have multiple problems. So I'm going to open up Photo Booth in this operating system. By the way, this is going to boot at USB 2 because this piece of shit had USB 2 in 2011. I think it's time for me to start eating my lentils. I don't have the patience to wait for this to boot up over USB 2. That's going to be painful. This USB hub could be bad. But if the camera is working, then I know that it's not going to be the USB hub. See, this is the webcam connector, J3402. They share a common hub. It could be something else. External USB, this external USB, J4610, it may also be the port that goes to that SMC MUX chip. So check this out. You can actually program the SMC over USB. See this over here? USB SMC debug MUX. See this? This allows you to not have the USB signal go to the PCH. It'll actually, the USB signal, the USB in, will go straight to the SMC. So you could actually deal with the SMC via you could plug something in via USB and go straight to the system management controller if it's enabled. If USB debug port enable L gets pulled up. So this is, or down, which is really cool. But that actually is for the port that's working. So this circuit is not going to be a part of the problem. This circuit over here is the port that doesn't have anything to do with that. So that's going to point to either a bad hub, bad port, or bad filter. Now usually it's bad hub or bad filter. I'm going to figure out if it's bad hub or bad filter by logging in and seeing if Photo Booth works with the webcam. I don't know what kind of weird sick porn Orhan has on the desktop here, so we're going to keep that private. I don't want to embarrass him in case he's got, you know, some sort of like anime foot fetish or something. We're just going to keep that off the desktop for now. Okay, do they still have Photo Booth in here? Yeah, they do. All right, so open Photo Booth. I'm going to cover all the porn that Orhan has on here. So as you can see, the camera is working. So since the camera is working on this machine, that means that it's either an issue with the USB hub or the filter for that port. Now let's take a look inside that port. Eat your lentils, Lewis, do it. I don't have USB yet. When I have USB, I'm allowed to eat my food. Only once I have USB may I eat my food. I haven't earned eating food yet. Food is a privilege, not a right. Eating food before you fix customers' MacBook is not a human right. Okay. Well, let's see. Is that port getting power? We should check that shit. And also see if the filter is kind of funky. So that's the port that's closest up. Let's see where that filter is. So if we look on the board view, that's going to be L4610. That's for the data. And then we have D4610, which is going to be the diode for data. So you know what I may do? I may just replace this and that at the same time. Let's go for it. We're just going to replace both at once. Just pure savage with it. Savage beast mode activated. And then I can eat the food. But I have not. We got a deadline. The queue is behind. We must fix things. The queue is behind. The budget is too low. But we are gonna fix. 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 Until there's no Mac left to fix. Alright. So, come on. Come off the board, you little bit. Diode gone. Filter gone. Bada bing, bada boom. Okay, next, donor board. Make sure power chip is making good contact. Rehotted bro. Cool down for a second. Move solder blobs. Rapid cool, mofo. Wow, both USB ports work. That's the bottom USB port. Bam. Unplug. Top USB port. Bam. So, looks like over here we were having both USB ports didn't work. Now, what do the two USB ports have in common? The two things they both have in common are A, PCH, which is like your South Bridge and North Bridge all in one, or B, the power chip. Now, since the PCH is a chip with hundreds and hundreds of balls, takes about an hour to replace, and the power chip is something that takes a few minutes to replace, I decided to start diagnosing what would be easy rather than what would be hard. And also that's something that even if we don't have an easy versus hard judgment, measuring the power lines showed very easily that power wasn't present in both ports. At that point, I replaced the power chip when we're getting power to both ports, but only one port is working. Now, once we have only one port working, I decided to check out the schematic and see where this goes. And if you take a look at the schematic over here, where it shows you, here we go, where it shows you how the USB ports work, the USB port that was working goes to a different USB hub than the port that was not working. So there are a couple of issues here. It could be an issue somewhere else in the USB circuit. It could be upstream, or it could be here. Now, the way I tested if the USB hub was the problem is by checking what else is connected to it. We have the camera, the IR sensor, which is that little remote that used to come, I think, optional if you bought an A1181 MacBook that have a remote in the box for controlling iTunes. Nobody fucking uses that thing with a 2012 or 2015 MacBook, but apparently the circuitry is still included, even though nobody in their right mind uses that thing. So the camera was working. I tried Photo Booth, and I was getting a picture, which meant the USB hub had to be good. So it had to be something with this USB. So now if we scroll back to where the USB was, over here, you really are running out of things that it could be. It could be the data line between the USB hub and the USB port. I mean, it could be the filter there. That filter is going to get rid of EMI and radio frequencies and all that shit. It could be this diode to ground that's bad. Or it could be the actual port itself. Replacing the port is really hard. Replacing these two is really easy. And it's honestly a coin toss at that point as to what it is. Now, people would say, how do you know that it's the coil versus the port? Why wouldn't you measure it with an oscilloscope and look at the waveforms? And it's like, dude, you're overcomplicating it. This component costs cents. You can get off of a donor board. And if you're at all proficient with soldering, that takes, what, like all of 90 seconds to replace? And it's something that I replaced very quickly. And it's easier to do that than it is to lug out the oscilloscope. Not kidding. Lugging out the oscilloscope will take me more time. And then I had to just set up and put on the bench. And then I have to use brain power. Does that look like a working USB signal or not? One of the funny things I find when people are always mentioning getting an oscilloscope or using an oscilloscope is they think once they can see waveforms on the screen that they're going to be able to solve everything. And when they get it and they just see on the screen, they just go, okay, so now I see squiggly stuff in the screen. So what do I do to fix it? So that's about that. That's how we fixed and diagnosed this USB issue. What was interesting about this one is that there were actually two separate USB issues. This is a very sneaky one. A, no power, and B, issue in data line. These two may have been unrelated unless the USB port, somebody shorted something and maybe sent 5 volts to the data line, which killed the filter. But I don't think that filter is going to die just because you put 5 volts through it. I think it's really interesting that we had 2 different faults at the same time. I'm not quite sure what would have caused it, but it does appear to work. So at this point, I am going to eat my lentils that arrived because I'm hungry. It's 12:12 a.m., and I think that that's excellent time to eat my dinner. Just leave notes for this ticket so that the customer knows that they're just about done. Just got to Q-tip that area a little bit so there's no flux remaining. Test it, make sure it works for a while. Doesn't fail, and then this should be ready for them to pick up tomorrow.